Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week my guest is Arthur Wong. Arthur, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on, Glenn. I'm a realtor slash firefighter slash investor in the Cleveland area at this point.
Yeah.
And hoping to scale up to get to apartments.
Cool. Where do you live in Canada?
In Markham.
Okay, Markham. I come out to Markham every once in a while, so I'll have to hook up for a drink or some food or something.
Actually, that sounds great.
Yeah, awesome. So you're investing in Cleveland, which actually is a very popular place right now. What drew you to Cleveland? Tell me your story. How did you get there? Were you buying in Canada first? What's the story here?
Story, to be quite honest, I started on the a fire department, and one of the guys there had actually started in like Florida, and then went to Indianapolis, and then went to Cleveland. And basically, at the time that I was buying, it was Cleveland that was the better returns.
Yeah.
And so I just started looking there. I bought something turnkey. Yep. And then about a year and a half after that, the guy that originally was invested in the States ended up selling all his properties. I ended up buying one off of him. And then at the beginning of this year, I bought another one off another firefighter, and then one off of his father-in-law. And then I have another one in contract, basically to buy. We're actually just talking about some stuff right now because in the Cleveland area, there's something called the point of sale. So when you're trying to sell your house, you have to actually do some repairs and make sure that it's up to par for that area, basically.
Oh.
And so he's trying to get his repairs done first, and then I'll buy it. And then his father-in-law has another one, a duplex this time, that he wants to sell. So we've just got a verbal on that one. And so by the end of this year, I'll have 6 with 7 doors. And really, I don't really do a ton of investing here in Canada, even though I'm a realtor. I do have a coach house in the back, so we have a detached garage, and there's a legal 1-bedroom apartment above there.
Oh, cool.
And so that's kind of what I have. Hope that answers it.
Yeah, no, that was.
I wish I was like, I swung a hammer and brought some screwdrivers down to the States. I've seen my very first house. I've never physically seen the other ones. So
you were saying before that the one guy was selling all his stuff off. Why was he selling? Why didn't he want to keep everything anymore?
You know what? He had a bunch. I remember at one point he said he had $80,000 worth of rental income that year.
Yeah.
Which is a good amount. I think he was mortgaged a bit, but he had purchased a couple of pre-construction things here in the GTA.
Yeah.
And that was a time where the run-up was huge, right? So there was a lot of money to be made, more so than the appreciation down in Cleveland. I find Cleveland's mainly cash flow. Things might appreciate a bit. I haven't sold anything, but things might appreciate, but they didn't appreciate like how the GTA was appreciating in 2016, 2017, right? So maybe 2015 in there. So that's why he wanted to make sure he can actually afford all those pre-constructions. So that's why he sold.
Okay.
Go ahead. The second buddy who was selling, he's a mortgage broker now, private mortgages. Yeah. So I think a bit more certainty there as long as nothing defaults. And then he also gets a bit of a cut of commission too. So that's why he's trying to sell. So.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you live in Canada. What drew you to the States eventually? Like, I guess originally was just people from work, like just showing you good returns. Like what happened in there?
So I used to work in Abu Dhabi. I worked there for 4 years. I came back home and I had a good amount of money. And I remember I looked around and I had almost bought. When I say almost, not really close, but like I was definitely thinking about it.
Yeah.
About buying like a triplex close to Casa Loma, basically. That was going to be one of my first ones, and it was I think at that time it was 2010, and it was probably around 300, maybe 320, 320,000, something like that. And I didn't, and. Man, if I did, I think I would have done really well. But basically, you're just looking at affordability. I've always looked at, even though I don't know if I necessarily knew the term cash flow.
Yeah.
I never really was banking on appreciation because if anyone asks, I always tell them I don't have a crystal ball. I'm about the worst stock picker ever. And so basically all I can do is hope that, or do my calculations and get actual positive cash flow, right? And hope that my houses are occupied, essentially, right? Rented out.
Yep.
And that's all I can do. So, um,
They're selling houses on the south part of Guelph and over here in Cambridge, and they're now offering like 6 months of they're going to pay your mortgage or your rental, fees, or they'll guarantee renters for
the guaranteed. Oh yeah.
And I'm
They've
like,
been actually. So that was just completely aside. That was my first place that I actually had a contract on. Was out in Waterloo.
yeah,
It was the Icon building, and
yeah,
I bought I think it was a 1+ den, which essentially is a 2-bedroom.
yeah,
And they're guaranteeing rents for, I think it was 2 years and 8 months, and then free property management and things like that, right? So, yeah, like they're doing that quite a bit. And hey, you know what? If you can do it, if the numbers make sense that way, go for it. Because after 2 or 3 years, when they're not guaranteeing it, then hopefully by then you've covered most of. Well, not I shouldn't say most of it, but hopefully it's cash flow.
You've got yourself
right?
to at least a good spot. I hope
Yeah.
so. Whenever I started getting those emails, it started to scare me. I was on the other side. I was like, oh, no, right? Like, what's
Yes.
happening to our market here? Like, I'm like, does that mean that they're not able to sell these? But I do realize that they're usually selling them for a very high price. Like, they're asking for, they're buying a condo townhouse and they're asking for, $500,000 to $700,000 for them, and you're just like, really, for
Yeah.
for a townhouse? But anyway,
Yeah, someone else mentioned that once you see that, the market's going to go down later on. But hey, you know what? I don't have a crystal ball,
yeah.
so I have no idea.
I'm gonna have to get. I'm sorry to do some name dropping, but I have to get Quentin D'Souza on this show because I listened to him do a little rant on this same topic, and it was talking about. How do I word this? But basically, whenever there should be a recession starting, is when whenever the banks want to lower their rates to pull more people into the purchasing market.
Yeah.
The first sign that that's happening is whenever they start dropping the qualifiers for the mortgages. He may have hit the nail right on the head. So what his theory is that we won't actually see a recession because they'll just make corrections and they don't actually have to change the rate in order to keep people into the market, to keep pushing it, at least level it, keep it level. So anyway, it's good for me because I still have properties here in Canada too. So why did you get into, just to get back to your story, I probably should do some of that. So, because we've got a side tangent. Was there something that drew you specifically to Cleveland over other parts of Ohio or other parts of the country?
You know what? No, I have to say it's basically someone pointed me in the direction, go over there. I was like, okay, I'll go over there. And took a look at it, and you know how they talk about the 1% rule, the 2% rule, and you look at those. Not that I knew those rules back then, but my first place that I bought was in a not so desirable area, and I bought it for $23,500. I probably had to put once the tenant was gone, I had to put in another about $6,000. So I call it a $30,000 purchase.
Yeah,
and it's currently renting for $826, and that's lower than it was before. So that's significantly above the 2% rule.
Yep. No.
And again, I didn't know that term back then. And now, I mean, the fact that the 2% rule got watered down to the 1% rule, I'm still doing well, right? So, my next place, I think I bought it for $35,000, and this one's been way more solid. It's a nicer area, and I get $900 off of it, right? So. Yeah. That's great. And the ones that I just bought this year are sort of the same, except I found that not everything's rosy. This year, for some reason, I just found that I've been having a little bit of bad luck. I think sometimes you'll just run into bad years. Hopefully I can weather it, which I'm sure I can, but I'd rather have positive cash flow. But for instance, the first place that I bought, that's renting for $826. Same tenant's been in there since 2015. And I just found out in January or February that she hadn't paid utilities in 24 months. and that always comes back to the owner, right?
Oh, geez.
And so that 24 months ended up being about $2,400. So it was like $100 a month. And honestly, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'll pay the $100 per month, right? So I had to pay that, and yeah, kind of go from there. But I found sort of these things like I bought one property from the other friend of mine, and then basically I owned it for, I don't know, a week, and then they put in their notice, right? And so I was like, man, right? And then I'm in the midst of changing property managers. The reason I'm buying all these from my coworkers was because I really like the property manager.
Yeah.
And the only way he actually manages your property is that he was the guy who initially rehabbed and flipped it, basically. And so that's why I wanted to buy these properties, because I liked them and I want to still work with them. But then all of a sudden, last month, he was like, hey, I'm getting out of the property management part. I'm just going to stick with the flipping. And so we're being downloaded to someone else, which I just had a conversation with them today, and seems okay, actually.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, all told, this has not been the greatest year, even though I'll end up having more properties. But hey, hopefully next year is better, and the year after that's better, and then hopefully I'll have an apartment soon within the year, kind of thing, and we'll kind of go from there, right? So
you know what? That's all part of the business. It goes up and down. My start of this year was rough. Like, I had a lot of vacancies just because everyone decided to move out at the same time, and then there was renovations to be done, and it just like killed cash flow. It was tough, and it's part of it. But you know, it's part of the game. It's part of the whole thing, and as long as you're cash flowing, you'll make up for it. And I don't know. You could sort of mention, like, I guess it's like a referrals that you kind of how you got into Ohio and stuff like that. And really, I think that's some of the main parts of the game. Like, a lot of the reason I got into the markets I'm in is from listening to podcasts and shows and stuff. Like, and then I get it down to, like, 15 markets, and I do my own thing. And I kind of would, some of it, especially off the start, I took a lot of stuff with just to take a stab at it, like
okay,
and that's how it kind of went. Like, when I first one bought in Huntsville, Alabama, and in all honesty, I didn't really know what I was doing on the first one. I'm the kind of guy that ready, fire, and then I'll aim afterwards. And so I jumped in, bought the property, and then I figured out what was going on in the city and everything else, and it was it all worked out, and it turned out to be my favorite place out of all the places I've invested. And but it was a lot of luck, right? And really, I guess you take some referrals from people and you take a stab at it, and I don't know. Hopefully, you can learn from some other people, because that's how I still learn stuff. When I need another property manager, I'll go find some people I know. Hey, I heard you're in this market. Who do you use for this?
Who do you use it?
Yeah. Who do you have for a contractor? And the people, a lot of people are pretty good for sharing. So
yeah, and you know what? This whole group, I find no one's holding back. No one's holding on to their secrets really tight to their chest. They're just telling you straight up, and it's like, basically, I feel like they're like, oh, you got the balls? Go do it. Yep. And I'll share all the information with you. And so it's a great little network here. I find, like, I gotta say, I just bought a Tesla about 4 months ago, and I'd like to say that it's going to pay for itself because of all the podcasts I listen to while I'm driving. And, it's like, oh, this Tesla saved my life. Hey, I'm gonna go rich because I bought this. So I just and then you start connecting with people like yourself, and it's just sharing of information. No one says, you know what, I'm tired of talking to you. See you later, right? So it's a great community.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. Is a lot of times if you give to people and then they'll give back. If you want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
Ooh, I guess email. I'm a realtor as well. You can look me up, Arthur at arthurwong.ca. So ARTHUR at ARTHURWONG.ca. So wait, hold on. I should find a business card around here. If only my desks were cleaner.
In all honesty, like I think like 90% of our listeners are doing it through like iTunes and Google Play. Yeah, there you go.
How's that?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for your time, Arthur. I really appreciate it, and I think actually some people are getting some great value from this. I think it's going to be good.
I hope so. I just like talking anyway, so I would have done it regardless.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Glenn, thank you very much. Talk to you later.